name's Martin Lucas. I'm just going to share a couple of things to get us kicked off for today. We've got a very full program, as you might expect, as you've been seeing, and I just wanted to take you through a couple of highlights about things as well. So the first thing to note about today is your time, right? So it's going to be about what needs you want to get from this. So we're going to be throwing loads of tips and insights and psychology and high growth and customer experience problem solving, and certainly lots about loyalty. But we do encourage you to ask questions as we go. So you just need to open the chat, you select my name, and you can select whatever question you want. And when each person's done their presentation, I'll be throwing out the questions. Just wanted to warm you up a little bit and tell you a little bit about myself. So retention, loyalty, and why customers buy is misunderstood and underserved. Huge thing for me. And just to tell you a little bit about my business, we spent 5 years looking at why that was the problem, why loyalty was a problem, why all of us feel as consumers that we're being underserved with lots of relevant content. And the core problem statement we had was, why don't humans understand humans? So think about self-help book industry. It's $1 billion industry. We're all on a journey trying to understand ourselves, and that's difficult enough in a very short lifetime, let alone understanding how others think and feel, right? So this is one of the problems that we're looking to solve today. And this problem is also manifested in the digital world. So Google gets an average click-through rate of 1.91%. Facebook is 1.61%. Programmatic and display is 0.35%. The total mass of that is 98.81% of ads do not get interacted with. And our point is, it's 265 billion of wastage. And it's not just about digital advertising. This problem is the same in TV, in email, in sales, in service. And it's the same issue keeps repeating itself, right? Is that humans don't understand humans. And if you could take one thing from today, I'd love you to just listen deeply, because that's a skill in itself, listening, right? To all these presenters about how they've managed to find success and the problem solving they're doing with customers. That's our real focus for today. And the core thing is that all of us are experiencing this kind of a relevant experience. So if it's happening to all of us, there's got to be gaps in how businesses are thinking. So I just wanted to just get your gears working a little bit with this. A little bit about the business. As I mentioned, we spent 5 years researching, testing, building, all using mathematical psychology. And what we wanted to do was understand how humans think, right? So I'll be covering some tips with you as we go through this session. But just to give you an idea, we've built this GAP toolkit as an organization. It means that we can interrogate and understand conceptually and perception-wise what it is that individual consumers are looking for in different experiences. We've got average growth of 3 to 21% on revenue, 18 to 26% on advertising savings. What's the real point? I wanted to share today what is loyalty, because the thing about loyalty is that it's not price, it's not discount, it's not hounding people with things that matter to us meaning us as a brand, right? It's actually about the fact that loyalty is a feeling. It's something that we earn. And I think we've lost that connection of what that looks like. And you're going to find that out with the people that are going to be speaking today, because I know them all quite well, and it's some really great stories that we're going to have to look at. And loyalty is something we need to keep earning. And too much of the world is kind of ends at point of sale at the moment. And we need to keep improving what that looks like. So it takes effort, not just automation. And here's one thing that I wanted to end it on before we hand over to Katarina, and I'll introduce her. So business thinks that 13% of their marketing messages are unsolicited, right? So on the left, you have business perception. This is the truth. Consumers feel that 85% of the messages they receive are spam, right across the board. Doesn't matter if they love the brand. If what we're sending them is irrelevant, then people feel that it's spam. Businesses believe that 81% of their marketing messages are relevant and useful, whereas 84% of consumers say these communications are not useful at all. So we've got this gap that keeps growing, and this was an in-depth survey. It's part McKinsey and partly done by a MarTech publication as well. Businesses say they're slow to respond to consumers 25% of the time. This one makes me laugh. Consumers disagree and contend that businesses are slow 83% of the time. Businesses believe that 75% of the communications are personalized, while consumers feel it's closer to 17%. You can't argue with these types of facts. So the thing that I always encourage people with is, like, don't just think about what you're doing as an organization or what your role is. Think about what your experience is like as a consumer, because that's the gap that we need to close. First gift for you today, we're going to be giving out a few gifts for you. It's a free paper. It's the psychology of sneaker shopping. So there's a bunch of tips and insights on there as well. This deck will get sent out, so you don't necessarily have to think about grabbing that link at the moment. So that was it for just a quick introduction. And who I'm going to hand over to next is the wonderful Katarina Witkins, and she is the MD of Innovation Bubble, and they are a bunch of fantastic business and consumer psychologists, award-winning. And Katarina, over to you.
Great, thank you very much, Martin. And yeah, good morning, everyone. Great that you're here today. And yeah, I will talk about in the next 10 minutes or so why understanding your audience from a psychological point of view can not only dramatically increase your sales, but it actually allows you to really connect to your customers and to be relevant to them, which, as we know, has become ever more important in the times that we live in. And the reasons why psychology can help businesses so much is because we can answer the why questions, back to Martin's point as well. That's what psychology does. I'm sure you have all figured out what your customers are doing, when they're doing it, where they're doing it, but many businesses still struggle from our experience with answering the why questions. So why do customers buy one product over another? Why do they engage with you instead of your competition? Or why are customers not being loyal? So psychology can answer the why question. And the reason why psychology is able to do that, because it ultimately deals with the reasons and the drivers and motivations of decision making. That is our bread and butter. That's what we examine and have been trained to understand. And what fundamentally drives consumer decision making might be a surprise to some of you. It's not price, and it's not the functions of your product or services, and neither it is convenience. Don't get me wrong, these factors do play a role in decision making, but to a much more minor role than many brands believe they do. Because if it was about functionality, why don't we then have just one universal pair of glasses if it was just about visual corrections? We do not, because the underlying reasons why we choose and wear so many different pair of glasses is because we want to look sexy, or we want to look intelligent or creative, etc. So yes, of course, we wear glasses because we needs to help us with our vision. But it's not the main reasons why we then approach and engage with certain brands and choose a certain style, etc., etc. So it's a lot more emotionally driven, these decisions behind the actual product functions. And the reason why it's so much more emotionally driven than logically driven on functionality is the way our brain is basically set up and functions. Which means 20% of the time, our brain engages with information, with brands, with products in an analytical way. So that means it applies logic, it thinks things through, it analyzes things. However, 80% of the time, so the majority of the time, it evaluates things from an emotional perspective. And I will explain a little bit what I mean by emotions. On top of that, the 20% analytical part of the brain is the conscious part of the brain. So that's where we put an effort and we compare and we think things through. That's a conscious behavior and action that we do. 80% of the time, so when the emotional brain kicks in, is done non-consciously. So that basically means we and your consumers are unaware of what drives their decision-making. They cannot articulate it. And I'm sure many of you have come across the situation where you might have asked your customers, so why would you not buy our product? What could we do to make it more attractive, etc.? And you know, a typical answer from your customers are, yeah, okay, make it cheaper, and then I buy it from you. Their rational response, the conscious response. And then you do that, and then you see, well, the customers just went to your competition and the product is even more expensive. So it's not logical. We've seen it all. We should all eat more healthy and exercise, etc., but we don't do it. So most of the time, it is our emotional part of the brain, the more illogical part, if you like, that drives decision making. And that's what psychology is looking at, examining at, in order to help brands to appeal to customers a lot better and position products to that non-conscious part of the brain. So what do we mean by this non-conscious? What is the emotional part of the brain? What drives that part of the brain? Yeah, it is our emotions, which are underpinned by our needs, our values, our habits, many, many biases. We have about 180 biases that influence our decision-making. Our past experiences and our long-term memory sits in that part of the brain as well. And I would like to explore just one aspect, given the time, with you together. And I would like to play with you a little bit now to demonstrate what we mean by these needs that drive decision-making on a fundamental level. So look at this picture, look at the location. And if I was able to zoom you in there now, please just drop in the chat where you would like to be in that spot. So the beach, the light water, the dark water, the grass, at the back of the mountains, wherever you like to be. Just drop it in the chat. Okay, so some of you have probably chosen this nice sandy light water part of the beach. And as psychologists, we love to use images because it allows us to tap into your non-conscious. There's no right or wrong answer, but your choice when you click on images or evaluate images says something about your underlying needs. And I cannot make a conclusion by just giving you one image and seeing what your choice has been. But if you have chosen this part of the picture or the spot, it's likely to be an expression of your need for indulgence, relaxation, or some hedonistic reasons. However, it might also be you have chosen this one because you might be a bit scared of what's in the dark here before you would consider exploring the dark side of the water or the shady bit. And that's very important for brands to understand. Very often brands communicate the positive aspects of their products and brands. And they completely forget to analyze and understand any concerns, any anxieties customers have, and not addressing these at all. And that's a huge problem because our brain actually pays a lot more attention to negativity and to threat than it does to the positive aspects. So if your customers have a very high need to feel secure and have a high level of risk averse or are more anxiety driven, which we recommend to identify, is that they are not even open to think and digest the positive aspects of your offering, of your service. They want to have their anxieties addressed first, then the brain is calmed down, and then they're open for your positive messaging and the positive aspects of your products. Some of you might not even have chosen the middle bit of that spot, but they want to be by the mountains or look what's out there behind or on the grass. And that might be a need or a reflection or the reasons for a need for exploration, looking for opportunities, adventure, etc. And these underlying needs is just as an example of what fundamentally drives consumer decisions. It's a constant, the brain is basically constant looking out. Who can satisfy, who can meet my needs on this underlying non-conscious level? So these needs engage people much more than facts because it's in this non-conscious part of the brain, the 80%. So what brands need to think about is, what are you telling the consumers your product or service can do? Can they gain power? Can they gain respect? Does it elevate their status, their feeling of belonging? Or are you helping them not to be excluded from a group, or to feel safe, or to not lose face, or save time, for example? Or is it that your service or your product allow to open a new door or discover something new, etc.? So when you have identified these underlying needs that drives consumer decision in a very constant way, so it doesn't change, it doesn't matter in what sphere your consumers are, of private life, public life, etc. There are certain sets that are quite fundamental and consistent in what drives their behavior. So your product and your services basically need to be wrapped up in that need story. And that's what we have done for many brands. We segment audiences based on these psychological needs. And that's how we have achieved these massive increases in sales for some of these brands that I'm showing here right now. Is because they were now able to communicate to these underlying needs that customers' decision-making is driven by, and position their offering that way. So for example, in the Ted Baker case, we had different segments that were choosing the same product, the same t-shirt, but for different reasons. So you had a customer that were choosing the Ted Baker reason because he wanted to lead the crowd, he wanted to be the fashion guru. And another one was choosing that product for a completely different reason, but the same product, which was that he wanted or she wanted to feel more confident about herself and not being excluded from the group. And that were the underlying reasons for the choice of being engaged with Ted Baker, and then specific products as well. So I hope that gave you in a nutshell very quickly of one of the aspects that fundamentally drives decision making. And just to summarize this, so what you need to consider is your consumer's brain are predominantly not rational and logical. They're highly emotionally driven, and these need states that they have is the underlying motivation for the decision making. We need to position products and brands to our consumers in a meaningful way. We need to offer emotional experiences to them, and that these are literally the key 3 points that I recommend you highly to remember whenever you communicate with your customers, whenever you want to engage them and increase loyalty, retention, sales, whatever it is. So this is where we can help. We can help with sales augmentation, with audience decision-making. As I said, we can segment your audience on these psychological needs. We help with concept testing or measuring non-conscious influences. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Virtual round of applause, Katarina. That was really good. We've got a few questions. First one is about how can anyone go about starting to identify those psychological needs, the emotions of the customers and things like that, especially when what you were explaining was that a lot of it is unconscious, right? Like the customer's not necessarily aware. So what would be your tips about kickstarting people with that? Apart from buying your service, of course.
Yes, so I mean, it does require some psychological tools or some psychological background knowledge in this. What I can say is survey questions or asking consumers straightforward won't do it, because again, you would just tap into people's conscious part of the brain. They would need to think about their answer and highly likely post-rationalize their answers, full of biases, ego defense, etc., etc. So that doesn't really do the trick. You can analyze a lot the way people communicate, what they engage with you, what pictures they click on, for example, with the website, with your email communication, etc. But again, you would need to have a trained psychological eye in order to identify these, what the reasons are behind that. So yeah, and the tools we use are all image-based. So each image is representing a certain need that customers click through, and then we can identify what drives them.
Wonderful. Thank you, Katarina.
No, thank you. Any other question or?
No, sorry. I think we're good now.
Okay.
So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, folks. So what we're going to do now is I want to build on the things that Katarina was talking about. And again, the big thing that I like to work with people about is actually getting past their own bias, because as Katarina mentioned, I think she said there was 180 different types of bias that we humans hold, which is a huge number, right? And very much like our decision making, if most of it is happening unconsciously, our bias is driving a lot of that decision making. That's the brain's job, is to automate as much as possible. So what I thought we could do is just have some fun, rather than talking about business in itself, is just get you thinking about how your own brain operates. Because in my experience, the 56 case studies that we've done so far with like global brands to high growth brands, is that one of the biggest challenges we always come across is the bias of the people that are in those organizations. So let's just have a little bit of fun with it. So from choice architecture point of view, some great key stats to understand. We humans make on average 35,000 decisions a day. The vast majority of them are to say no to things, right? So we're saying no to adverts, we're saying no to content. Think about all the things that you've experienced so far today is going to happen all day, every single day. If you had to consciously think about 35,000 things a day, you wouldn't be able to function, you wouldn't be able to dress, you wouldn't be able to make yourself a cup of tea. And that's the brain's job. It wants to automate these things as much as possible. So what is irrelevant is really, really key, because that's why the brain is unconsciously rejecting experiences and people and adverts and content and all the things that go with it. It's often the wrong product, the wrong design, the frustration of too many steps, I find comes up all the time in customer experience. It's too confusing for people to actually understand, and we're either using too much or too little language. And how these things affect all of us is really simple. The brain's just saying no to it. So what I wanted to do was just start you on a path of being able to fix this. So within our model, the key starting point that we always look at is, what problem do you solve? So if you think about Katarina's example, she was talking about Ted Baker, right? And what she was saying about Ted Baker, they had phenomenal results. And what she was saying about it was that it depends on the reason why somebody's buying it. So I think she mentioned that you get some people that are buying it more to show off, and other people are more buying it to fulfill a need that they've got. So you might have more practical shoppers, you might have more egotistical type shopping going on. But the key point is that, how often have we ever asked the question, what problem do we solve? Right? So everything from a pen through to clothing, through to holidays, through to jewelry, there's always an emotional connection to the customer about the problem that you're solving for them. It's never as simple as, I bought a ring because I wanted to look nice, or I bought a jacket because I wanted to look nice. There's a lot more to it. So to start you on this path, what problem do you solve? How can you make my life easier? So the brain literally is looking for the easiest way to do things. That's what the brain does in terms of automation. So whether you're B2B, even truer for B2B is, how can you make people's lives easier? But it's just as true on the consumer side. I mean, look on the left-hand side, right? If the consumer is frustrated by being perceived that there's too many steps, no matter how much they want the product, there's a certain group of people that will walk away from that experience. Bounce rates from websites and things as well, right? How can we anticipate what I need before I even know? Right, so that's about not just sending a product because it matters to you to shift the inventory. It's about understanding what the customer wants and when they want it. And no consumer likes adding more workload to their social life, right? So how can you convince me what you offer is easier, both for me to obtain and to associate with it and to just get the gains of it? This is the big thing that the brain's looking for. Your choice architecture, these 35,000 decisions, are based around the gains that you can get from it. And how will you reward and recognize me as a customer? Now, the great thing about this is that the reward is not necessarily the physical product in itself. When you read the Psychology of Sneakers Shoppers, the paper that we're giving away to you, you'll find that it's almost the hunt for the product is just as much a reward as actually getting the physical product, because we humans are very addictive creatures. The reason why 95% of our decisions have got an emotional connection into them is that emotions connecting to the reward center in our brain. That's the neuroscience of it. And those rewards offer us a chemical release. So you get a partial chemical release for holding the door open for somebody, and an even larger chemical release if you spend a long time researching something and finding the perfect holiday. And then when you're on the holiday, the people that you're with are praising you for finding that holiday. That's all different chemical releases that you get. So the world shouldn't be operating just on price, discounts, and the physical product. It needs to be about the emotional connection, about what people can get. And one of the things I wanted to share is the master-servant relationship, which is the psychological component. And it's one of the biggest challenges of the digital economy, in the perception today is that the brand is serving the customer. But the reality is that it's actually the other way around, is that we're asking customers, particularly in digital experiences, to actually do all the work to have to serve themselves. So as an example from two ends of the market, right? The Outnet today has 6,746 dresses and ASOS has 5,158. So as my friend joked with me, I love shopping for dresses was what she said. I do as well, but I'm just making jokes. She said to me, I love shopping for dresses, but I have to make the effort to find exactly what I want. And you could say, and Lottie will be saying, but there's a menu system and things like that. But the menu system is not optimized based on what the individual wants, not based on the emotional rewards and the things that they're looking for. So we need to start thinking about how can we actually serve the customer. And we do that by serving them more relevant experiences. And how do we know more relevant experiences? We have to know what problem we actually solve for them. So there's all the connected dots that go with that. We've just got to reverse it. And there is a structural opportunity for all brands because the brain loves to be conditioned, right? And what that means is that we're conditioned in life by environment, by bias, by habits. And habits are not just how we dress, habits are thinking, and habits are doing, and they're how we teach one another. So the majority of our decision making is locked down by the time we're 14 years old, right? So 18 to 21 is your adult upskilling. From 21 onwards, we will learn and we will change, but it's gentle modifications. And the brain literally resists any degree of change. So humans don't like change. It's a really, really genuine thing. And I'm not talking about fixed mindsets versus growth mindsets. It's just a functional part about how thinking works. So this is the brain's job, right? We call it the efficiency trick. So what I want you to do, because we're looking at how is the brain conditioned, just for fun, I want you to shout out what you see next. So you could put it in chat, or you could just literally just be at home and just shout out what you see. So what do you see? So I'll just give you a second, see if anyone's making any guesses on chat or anything like that. There we go. So we've got a couple of tigers coming in. Tiger, loving it. Here's the great thing, and this is mind-blowing to me, and I've been using this for years, and I still find it mind-blowing because it's just a really logical but obvious thing, right? It's 87% of people in the West, so raised in a Western society, Western education system, will say tiger. 83% raised in an Eastern culture, particularly the education system, will say a tiger in the jungle. And the reason being is that if you're raised in a Western culture, you're taught from the youngest age to look for the most dominant object. That's what our education system gives us. So we say tiger, right? If you're raised in the East, it's more of a relativistic setup. And what that means is that you're taught to look at the relationships between things. So when you see an image, your nature, what you're conditioned by, is to say a tiger in the jungle. So if any of you have ever been on global business calls and the boss says, right, has everybody got it? And everyone's like, yeah, we got it. And you come back a month later and the boss is frustrated because everyone's done slightly different things. It's because our perception, our interpretation is slightly different depending on the culture that we were brought up in. My point about this is that there's an even bigger gap that I love to set people free about because it's a huge opportunity. And it's based on a learned behavior, right? So all behaviors like this education system to do with tigers is a learned behavior, right? So referred to as he psychology. He psychology, again, is a learned behavior, but it's more prevalent in the male. And he psychology manifests itself as being numbers focused, it's very practical minded, and it lacks emotion. So if you think about most of the capitalist world that we live in, right, we're all working against KPIs and shareholder value and shifting numbers, and we've forgotten one of the biggest parts that makes up humans being humans, which is she psychology. Now, again, she psychology is a learned behavior, so it's more prevalent in the female. I've been doing this for a number of years, so I want to be really, really careful here that I'm not talking about gender. I'm talking about learned behavior models. So in the same way that you can look at the toys that we give boys and the toys that we give girls, we're starting to put them into a learned behavior model. Whereas the opportunity for all brands is she psychology, and here's why. She psychology is emotional intelligence. It's connecting the dots, and it's focusing on the relationships of things. So the opportunity is huge because she psychology is very much about relevance. And that's what the gap that you've got, 98.81% of brands not getting interacted with, people sending out experiences that are not based on emotions and needs, and brands thinking that they're responsive to customers when what they're really trying to do is automate too much. And automation is not something that it's a plus, right? So I'm not saying I'm anti-technology because I'm not at all. We do a lot with technology. We do a lot with machine learning, but you've still got to have the human intuition. You've still got to have the ability to pause within that system and make sure that you're treating humans like individual humans. Because one of the biggest psychological gaps I keep finding in particularly customer experience, which is our focus today, is that customers need to have their voice heard. It's a deep psychological thing. It's like the moment that you feel that your voice is being heard, that's when you can start to generate acceptance and loyalty as a feeling, which is the whole point of today's stuff, right? So here's the second gift of the day before we move on to the next one. So My business is offering 10 customer experience problem solving sessions. What does it mean? It just means that you come on the session, you load us up with the challenges that you've got, and we'll give you some complimentary insights within that session as well. It's first come, first served, so just reach out to me and I'll help set it up for you. So just going to stop my screen sharing. So now moving on to the next presentation. Just wanted to double check. Just give me a second. I'm a man, so I can't do two things at once, which is part of psychology as well. So coming up now, we've got Dr. Sum. Sum is CEO and co-founder of Mystery Vibe. So he's creating the trusted destination of sexual health and well-being. I know Sum quite well. He's a very, very entertaining person. So Sum, if it's okay with you, we'll just hand over to you now for your presentation.
Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen. And then we have our presentation. Right. Thank you very much for having me. Let me minimize this. Okay, right. So staying on the theme that Martin was talking about, I want to share how we started evolving as a brand from when we started 6 years ago, where we really started looking at it as an engineer, which I am, building products, building things that made technical sense. And then over 6 years, understanding the wider concept of helping customers on board, helping customers understand where their needs are, their gaps are, and why they would want to use the products, if at all they would, and if not, what is the right answer for them. So it's not always that the right answer is what we have built. So so what I'll show you is we even now tell people to go to other places if they're not the right customer for us. So starting with the background, the #1 search topic online is sexual health, and that's obvious. You know, that includes everything from STIs to porn, anything you can think of in sex. And there are a lot of questions. People generally go online when they have questions in sexual health, but no one has really stepped up till now to be the destination which answers or signpost or triage, whatever you call it, people to get to where they need to. 250 million searches, more than almost half of women and 1/3 of men experience some sexual dysfunction. However, less than 1 in 4 will ever seek medical help. So people tend to suffer in silence. And what they do is this: they end up with Dr. Google. They will have a convoluted spaghetti of experience. They'll try to find answers, and often they won't get what they're looking for. So, and it's big, which is obvious. It's a very big market. There's a lot of money that people spend in it. However, it's very fragmented. And the reason why it's very fragmented is people on one end of the spectrum, which is the medicines, would never talk about the other end of the spectrum, which is pleasure, and vice versa. And it steps in that direction. But due to stigma, how society is, and all of the history behind it, it's very fragmented. So now, why does it matter? So the reason it matters is because it will affect almost all of us at some point. So something as simple as childbirth. Over 60% of women will have a kid in their lifetime. And after that, they will have some sort of pelvic floor issue, whether it's short-term or long-term. Men over 40, 1 in 4 will have ED, and it gains 10% every 10 years. And so as we get older, ED becomes more relevant. Menopause leads to dryness because hormones change in the body. Aging leads to delayed ejaculation, difficulty in getting pregnant. So all of these things affect all of us. So it's very obvious why it matters. And where we come in, or where we started, and this is why the customer journey is so important, where we started is technology, because we are engineers, PhDs, electronics, we love tech, and we thought, okay, we can solve health issues by combining medicine and engineering, which is true, but it is only half of the story. So our expertise is vibration, and we use vibration for various things like postnatal scar tissue repair, pelvic period pain, dryness after menopause, addressing or helping with reducing the risk of prostate cancer, helping with ED, delayed ejaculation, various issues that we work on through vibration. And the reason for choosing vibration is because it's a very low risk, highly effective method. So the side effects are minimal, and most people benefit from it. What we do is we create devices which mimic the human anatomy. So products like this, which bend to be exactly like the human hand, for example. So that way you can use them to direct vibrations where you need them. And a good example would be scar tissues after pregnancy, when the vagina expands and contracts in a short period of time, and you have stretch marks, which can be painful and which you would normally use your fingers to massage to generate blood flow to heal, but it's much easier with a device. And similarly, we model human anatomy, create devices, and then run long trials. Like this product took 3.5 years to get to market, to really be effective, where it works even when sildenafil, tadalafil, the Viagra, Cialis of the world don't. And that summarizes the first part for me, which I wanted to kind of get through quickly, because the products are only half of the story. Now, where it gets much more interesting, especially because this is sexual health and this is very personal, is how do you really capture the audience and educate them? And then they may or may not buy our devices, which is the commercial arm of the business. But if we solve what we set out to solve with Mystery Vibe, and the clues in the name is how do we keep the mystery in the bedroom, and typically for long-term couples, which is what my wife and I and our other co-founders started the company for, is helping long-term couples maintain a healthy sex life as they age, as they have major life events like pregnancy, menopause, unfortunate events like cancer, and accidents like spinal injury, and things that are too common. And how do we keep that mystery in the bedroom? And the real answer is conversations. So everything I talked about in the beginning is one solution for a specific set of conditions. But the solution to everything is conversations. However, it's easier said than done. It's really difficult for someone, especially let's say, you've been together for 10, 15 years, and sex is not a topic, and that is true for most people. Sex is not a topic that most people would talk about, even to their best friend, closest partner. What we do is we create content with doctors and healthcare professionals, which is obviously researched and medically accurate, but we make it extremely accessible in terms of readability. So somewhere in between The Sun and The Guardian. And we work with media to get it out there. And the reason media is so important is because it gives you the excuse to start the conversation. So a real story is I got an email once from a person who was a pensioner and said, "Hi, I'm a pensioner. I read about you in the Sunday Times, and I wondered if you have a discount." And we said, "Yeah, sure, here is a discount. And could you tell us a little bit more about how you learned about us?" And she said, "My husband was reading about Sainsbury selling sex toys in Sunday Times. It mentioned your company's name. So he told me about the news, and we looked up your website. We really liked it, and we thought, oh, we'd like to try one of these. So there are so many things in that one little story. One, Sainsbury, very big name. It took us probably 3 years to convince Sainsbury that sex toys is okay. And after Sainsbury, now Tesco, Cardo, Asda, pretty much everyone in US, all Walmart, Target. A lot has changed in 6 years since we started. And we're very lucky, and we like to think we contributed to it. So Sainsbury is a big name. And if Sainsbury is selling something, it's as mainstream as it gets. So that's step one. Step two is Sunday Times. If that same news came out in the Playboy, the man would probably not share it with their wife as to why they're reading Playboy. So the media is very important, but what media is really important too. If Sunday Times writes about anything, it's legit. It isn't, BBC, CNN, whatever, but it is not, and it's taken seriously. Whereas The Sun, which we all know is the most read newspaper, however, is not taken seriously. It will still be read, it will still be shared, but people will think it's frivolous. So it's very important that it has the right associations in terms of the content getting into the eyes of the consumer. So, and then staying on the same story, so these steps are, and now obviously it's many years to do that story, but the steps are, the media is the catalyst. One person reads it, they're probably thinking about it anyway. How do I restart my sex life? It's a really easy way to share with their partner. Say, hey, honey, this is interesting. And interesting is a very powerful word, because it doesn't say they're endorsing it. It doesn't say they're rejecting it. It's saying, this is interesting. I wonder why Sunday Times, BBC, CNN, whoever wrote about it. What do you think? And that's the safest way to gauge the interest from their partner. If they say, oh my God, this is weird, then they know, okay, this is not something they need to venture into, and that's only going to end up in heartache. Whereas if they think, oh, this is really interesting, let's check it out, then they have their step one. And after that, it becomes very simple. So, so just to go through this journey, generally the journey starts with Google, either Google or media. And then people are reading, or they're searching, they discover content, which is why it is the most important part of what we do. Then they may or may not buy products, and the content will tell them if they need it. And like, to give you an example, for example, if someone's looking for dryness, to address dryness, we'll just tell them buy lubricant for, obviously a medical one, for less than a tenner, and that will solve it. You don't need to spend hundreds of pounds on devices. And then that's where we try to maintain the journalistic integrity in what we do as a separate piece from the commercial performance marketing side. And then people then might continue, they might get referred to other places, other products, other services. And if needed, they might we might refer them to doctors and professionals who might then sell devices, because our products are medical devices as well. They might sell our devices, or they might sell them other things, or just give them advice. And a really important part is this, which is referred to other product, services, and content. And we believe that if we want to be trusted, we have to be unbiased. And if we want to be universal, we have to be non-judgmental. So, for example, we write about audio porn, which is quite a big thing now, erotic audio. And equally, we'll write about prostate cancer recovery. We'll write about swinger cruise ships, and we'll write about menopause. And the reason we'll write about it is because we don't judge any of them. And we believe that the customer should decide what is right to bring mystery into the bedroom. Maybe they don't need a doctor. Maybe they need porn. Maybe they need sex party, or maybe they do need a doctor and they need medical advice. But the point of all of this, and why we built it this way, is it's sexual health. It's not purely medical. and it can just be reading content that solves your problem. It might be visiting a special club that solves your problem. It might be going to a doctor that solves your problem. But it has to be done as a very well informed way, where and they're relying on us as the trusted company who would do real thorough research before recommending anything at all. So we've done the hard work, and then you have to do the other hard work, is starting the conversation and making those decisions yourself. So just to give you a little flavor of what we write about, how we promote it. So what we write about is all the stuff I talked about. Now, how we promote it is primarily Facebook. And the reason is Facebook, we still find, is the best medium for consuming content. And if it's content, and especially long form content, and we can be very targeted with, like, for example, how to talk menopause with your partner. We would only target, let's say, women above a certain age. And similarly with ED, with relationships, etc. It's very easy to be tailored. And what we find, which is absolutely fascinating, is even though these are sponsored posts, they are shared on people's private walls. Because we can track the number of shares. And I don't remember sharing many ads. It's just not something we do. We tend to, like Martin said, we tend to ignore ads as much as possible. But the more we understand the customer, the more we understand the what they're looking for, and the more useful, actionable content we write, the more we find people not only reading it, but also telling their friends about it, and often about topics which are quite sensitive. And obviously the other side, which I mentioned, is these two pieces. Is if big media and doctors are behind it, it gives the credibility that you would need to have this conversation. Because if it says, oh, a doctor said this is really useful, then suddenly it changes the whole dynamic. So I'll talk about a very specific use case, and you'll see how it makes such a big difference. So prostate cancer is the #1 cancer in the UK. 60,000 men are diagnosed with it every year, which beats breast cancer, which is the #2. Now, prostate cancer generally is a result of prostate gland secretions which accumulate over the years. And one of the medically proven ways to reduce the chances of prostate cancer is to have the prostate secretions released. Now, if a urologist or a sex therapist tells you about this, you'll say, okay, fine, makes sense, totally serious discussion. What do I do about it? However, if the same topic was talked about in a pleasure perspective, which is prostate massage, you'll think, oh, it's very frivolous, and it's for fun, and it's not for me. So the exact same activity presented by a professional with a medical backing behind it is completely, it's seen completely differently from talked about in a very pleasure way. It's not to say one is right or wrong, it's just to say this is how society works. And for us to really address it, and if at the end of it we reduce the number of prostate cancer cases, then it's totally worth it. So and a similar example is NHS gives a leaflet to mums when they are about to give birth. It's called perineal care, and it's about massaging the perineum in order to increase blood flow to reduces the chances of perineal tear, which is extremely common during childbirth. However, again, if the same discussion was presented from say a erotic massage perspective, people would think, oh, that's very silly, or it's frivolous. So this piece is so incredibly powerful, the endorsements from professionals, that it changes what we think of in sexual health from complete frivolity to a medical need, which even NHS would put in writing for. And to a certain extent, media is I would say, almost as powerful. Of course, a doctor's recommendation is more, but it has bigger reach. So, for example, when we went on ITV this morning, and we did a poll, and it's very unfortunate. 90% people disagreed with us, but we have a lot of work to do. And obviously, with media, they tend to sensationalize things. But the point we were making is, if you're talking about sex education with your kids, you need to talk about it with content and well-informed content. Yeah. Now, would you give your teenage daughter a vibrator? It sounds very sensational, but what the real topic was, a lot of kids end up in A&E experimenting with their bodies with things which are totally not body safe. So given that kids will always, or teenagers will always experiment, and it's just something they are going through their hormones and their adolescence, telling them no is not really a solution, then isn't it better to educate them is what is body safe, and then telling them what they should and shouldn't do. So, but you can see, even if it didn't get the response we would like, it still started the conversation, which can actually, hopefully, change the percentages over the years about teenage sex education. And then the final notes I had, I wanted to add some little lessons learned, so it's actionable for anyone who is in either the vice space, which sex, cannabis, and all of this falls under. And then the reason it's quite a connected space is because there are also restrictions in how you can market them. So what we found is it's quite difficult to build a scalable business using the traditional paid media. So social media ads, retargeting, they're generally quite limited in sexual health and related industries, CBD, vaping, whatever, any of the related industries. And the other challenge is policies are constantly changing and they're becoming more strict. So for example, when we started, Amazon was quite flexible about sexual products, but now they are quite limited in what they allow. So in order to build a really strong business, you have to be the owner of your own destiny, and that is organic. So, but that's also why content is king. And organic, with the help of affiliates, drives most of our traffic, and some of the traffic comes from organic press and sponsored press. But at the end of the day, all of the traffic is only useful if it's really focused, and the on-site, the landing pages and the conversion is heavily optimized. So it's a little snippet that I wanted to finish with. And obviously, if you have any questions on how we experimented and got to this, and what we do to really have a scalable business without having without even having a paid budget. So we don't really have a paid marketing budget. Our entire business is built on organic. So I'm very happy to share more. And that's it from me. And Martin asked if we could do something to as a gift. So this week we set up a coupon, a Relax 20. So you get 20% off all our products. But again, only buy what you think is actually going to be beneficial to you or someone you know, because that's what we really care about. It's actually adding value to your overall health and well-being.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Well done, Soom. So I just wanted to summarize, like what Soom's been walking you through in a lot of detail there is about how they spent a lot of time understanding the challenges of what was stopping people from engaging with their product. And a lot of it was about education, right? So one of the things that we're learning today already is that don't make everything you do about point of sale, don't make it about product. And if you do some searching around Mystery Vibe and around their content and stuff as well, like they've done an incredible job from an SEO perspective. So well done for that. And thanks for your time, Soom.
Thank you
Just
very
moving
much.
on to the next one. So we've got Hussein next. Hussein is the General Manager of Digital and Customer Experience Transformation at Nissan, and he covers Africa, the Middle East, India, and Turkey. So welcome, Hussein, and just take it away.
Thank you very much, Martin. I'm trying to start the video, but I think the admin needs to, start my video. Perfect. I hope you can, yeah, perfect. I think you can all see me. So, hi everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. As Martin mentioned, my name is Hussein Dajani, and I am the General Manager of Digital and Customer Experience Transformation for Nissan Motor Corporation in Africa, Middle East, India, and Turkey. I just want to start with, Martin, your presentation was absolutely fabulous. You asked a very important question: how can you solve my problem? What I would like to ask everyone who's tuning in today is one thing. Can you just think about this? And trust me, this question is going to resonate with you for the rest of the day, if not the whole week, is when was the last time you had an amazing experience with any company? Just think about that example, and please do write them down in the chat area. When was the last time you had the utmost amazing experience with an organization? What was it exactly? And I'll tell you why I'm asking this question, because the challenge for organizations is to beat the last best experience you ever had. So when an organization is able to beat that, this is when they will be able to, like Martin said, create that emotional engagement and emotional attachment to an organization or a brand. This is something which is not easy. And again, as Martin said, what problem are you there to solve for me? The answer is very much empathy. It's not about just launching any solution for the sake of it. It's about launching a solution that will add value to a person's life. So without further ado, let me start by sharing my screen and taking you through my deck. Give me a second, please. And here we go. So great, the title of my deck is Customer Centricity During COVID-19. And I will start with the story of customer experience at Nissan Motor Corporation. I've been with the organization for the last 3.5 years. When I joined the organization, there wasn't any customer experience function at Nissan worldwide. So 2 weeks after I joined, I was tasked with setting up the department and leading it across the region, which was a very exciting challenge for me and something I really was looking forward to. So what we did after a series of workshops with consultancy agencies worldwide, our brief was very simple. How will we be able to see the world the way our customers do? And we all know the customer experience journey is a linear one, but we wanted to really discover, is it still valid being a linear one, taking into consideration that digital has invaded all our lives. Now we access things from our desktop, then from our laptop, then we go into a retail store, then we go to our smartphone. So really things are very much getting connected. So what we ended up doing after a 6-month work, we came up with something we call 7 priority journeys. Now those priority journeys are the same across any industry. It's just that we decided to couple them into 7 ones. And you see them here on the left-hand side. Even though you find the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it doesn't necessarily mean that you go from one journey to the other in the same flow. I just put the numbers just for us to be able to show that there are 7 journeys. So we decided the first one is going to be choosing my vehicle. And this is when the period when you decide, I want to buy a vehicle. The second one is experiencing a seamless test drive. And I will talk more about it soon. Making confident finance decisions, onboarding to ownership, managing my drive on the go, getting after sales service. And finally, and most important, is shopping through e-commerce. You will notice it's in yellow because it encompasses all the other 6 journeys. Now, the interesting thing is that you'll find them all being placed in a circular way. Why? Because you can come in and come out from any journey at any point in time. They're completely interconnected together, and there's no like a process, or there's no guideline for how you come in and out of it. And this is what's actually happening with each one of you and customers in general. So the way we started in 2017, when we kicked it off, we called it the year CE 1.0, Customer Experience 1.0. We were starting from scratch. We wanted to understand what are our capabilities as an organization, what teams do we have, what infrastructure do we have, what customer data do we have. So really it was, in a way, back to the basics, really assessing the situation that we have. And after we finished this in the year 2018, this is when we needed to start walking the talk. And the plans for 2019 and 2020 is really the acceleration period. This is where we moved into something we call the CE 2.0, where we start really integrating and connecting the journeys together in order to create a seamless, frictionless customer journey. So basically offline, online, or what we call the phygital world. But what happened? Everything was going great. We were going according to plans, and boom, 2020, COVID hit us. So what we started noticing is a short of footfall to our showrooms. We started noticing people not taking their vehicles for service maintenance. It was chaos. COVID hit us at every facet. When it started in China, we thought it's just gonna be a Chinese thing, but then it started sweeping off the world, and it came and hit us hard in this part of the world. So we had to get together, all of us, and really start looking at what are the imminent current challenges that we're facing, and what could be the challenges that we might face when COVID would remain for a period of time. So we really looked at all possible scenarios that could happen, so that we can devise the solutions that will provide ease, help, and support to our customers. And when I say customers here, I mean existing ones and potential ones. So basically, we put a whole roadmap in place where we all work together cross-functionally across the organization. And we decided on a roadmap how we were gonna tackle them. I'm just gonna show you briefly a video which depicts what we went through. But before that, I wanna tell you that when we sat together, all of us working together and really cracking things, how were we able to drive things forward? We created something we call the One Cross-Functional Customer Experience Team, or in short, the AMI Customer Experience Steering Committee. And this was made from all departments. I'm talking here customer experience, marcoms, sales, dealer network development, customer quality, market intelligence, after sales, connected cars, ISIT, so on and so forth. So when I say that I'm handling customer experience, even though I'm reporting into the marketing function, I'm actually responsible for customer experience across the whole organization. So I'm responsible for every single touch point with our customers, existing and potential ones. And that means our website, our apps, our showrooms. So really think about any touch point that engages with customers, the frontliners in the showrooms, the frontliners as in the call center, the community managers on social platforms, all of those come as part of my duties, me and the team that work together. And something which is very important, and this is a sideline, is the fact that the more organizations grow a lot, the more they start operating in silos. This steering committee's ultimate purpose was to break the silos, make us all work together, make us all have one ambition and one vision and one purpose to work towards. And that is at the heart of what you're seeing on this slide, which is the customer. So it's not about just putting the name of the customer on a PowerPoint. It's really about showcasing how we're being customer centric towards that customer and how we're showing empathy. The 7 priority journeys are the governing, if you want, agenda that we work towards. And then all the other departments through cross-functionally working together, they will be able to ensure a seamless, frictionless customer journey. This is easier said than done. Trust me, it hasn't been an easy ride at all. Why? Because you're changing the mindset and changing the way of work of people who have been used to doing it for many years. You're coming and telling them, customer experience is here, customer experience is the way to go, it is the future, and we need to start working together. And so let me, without further ado, show you the video that I'm going to be playing. And let me put this 1, 2, and go. So I hope that gave you a good idea of basically the framework in which we decided to start working on. And the idea, all of it started from something we call shop at home. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna go to one of our websites. So if you go now to any of our websites in Africa, Middle East, India, and Turkey, you will find on the upper tab something called shop at home. Once you click on it, it takes you to that page where it's made out of 2 verticals. If you're interested in a Nissan or if you own a Nissan. The idea of Shop at Home, it's an umbrella which hosts a series of solutions that we've deployed for existing and potential customers so that we show them that we understand their worries, their fears, their wants and needs during the times of COVID-19. So our lineup now available in your living room, and get started. And it's easily made out of 3 steps. The first one is choosing the vehicle, which is the right one for you. The second one is getting payment options. And the third one is delivery options, as in having the car delivered to you at home. So when it starts with choosing your Nissan, over here, you can very easily go into either by price, or you can go by sport cars or SUVs or crossover. If that's not enough for you, we've devised a tool called Find My Perfect Nissan. And I'll show you over here. This is a solution which is enabled through machine learning, where it just asks you a couple of questions, and I'm gonna show you those, how it happened. So it asks you, where do you drive your vehicle? So let's say I drive on the highway and I drive in the city, and I click into next. And then it asks me, how many seats do you need? And if I need a baby seat or child seat. So let's say I need 5 seats, and next. And over here, it tells me what's important to you, and choose 3. I care about safety, I care about comfort, and I care about technology. So, and I go into show me the results. So the results of this are all based on machine learning. So it tells me that our recommendation for you is the X-Trail. This is the grade of the X-Trail. This is the starting price of it. And it rates it based on the 3 criteria that you chose, on the safety, on the comfort, and on the new tech. If you're still not happy with the X-Trail, it tells you we also recommend to you those 2 other vehicles. And again, it rates each one of them on the safety and the comfort and the new tech. So this was one of the solutions that we deployed in order to make you, find the right vehicle for you. The other one is, let's say, fine, I decided that I want to go with the petrol, but I'm not sure about which grade I need to go through. So what we did is we created a vehicle comparison tool. So over here, I can decide whichever vehicle I want to put. So let's say I decided I want the petrol, and I decide on which grade do I want. Let's say I took this one, and over here, it puts for me all the specifications. That's great, but I want to compare it with another petrol. So again, I do the same thing, and let's say I want to compare it with this one. And over here, it will be able to showcase to you the differences between them. So this tool really helps you understanding which is the right grade for you. So that's a great thing. When we move forward, again, I said footfall has been falling inside our showrooms. So great, how do we bring the showroom to you? And this is where we created the virtual showroom, and I will be able to show it to you. It's a virtual showroom that you can access it at any point in time. And as you can see, you have the arrows, you just click on them and you start walking inside the showroom as if yourself, you are there, which is absolutely great. But that wasn't enough for us. We wanted people to get to know our vehicles more. So again, the kicks, for instance, I just clicked on it. And what happens is I start becoming inside the vehicle. I can take a look at everything up and down, right and left. So really making people get to know our products and services in a much better way. I can zoom in and zoom out. And you've got here the discover item where you can either decide to order the vehicle online, download the brochure, request a quote, contact us, or go to the vehicle landing page. So that was one further step to make it easier. All the solutions that you're seeing are available for every single market in the region. Even to take it one step further, we created something called Nissan Live. It's a new brand that we created. Nissan Live is a live stream. It happens every Thursday. It happens every Thursday from our showrooms. So where we will have a person basically talking about, every week we will have a different topic. So as you can notice here, this is when the episode's live date is, and it will be at 1 p.m. KSA time. Please feel free to tune in this Thursday. And we're gonna be talking about back to school and the Ultima walk around. So it's a live stream session. If you wanna take a look at previous episodes, they're available here as well. You can have a look at them. So it's a kind of our TV channel that we created. Move forward, getting payment options. We noticed that when customers are interested in a certain vehicle, they want to be able to calculate their EMI, which is their weekly payments. So we created finance calculators for them. We took it one step further, is where they will be able to apply for a loan online. And within 30 minutes, they will be able to get back an answer from all the banks who is willing to give them a loan and what will be the interest rate. So we worked with a third-party startup solution company that provided us with that solution. And then again, when you want to do a test drive, you don't want to go to the showroom, that's not a problem. We will come to you at home and you will do a test drive anywhere at any time. And finally, if you own a Nissan vehicle, we have the door-to-door service maintenance where we will come to you and you will be able, we will take your vehicle, do the service maintenance of it and return it back to you. To take things even one step further, we enabled something we call a video call with sales consultants. So now from the comfort of your living room, you will be able to do at any time you want a video call with a sales consultant instantly. So from the comfort of your home, the sales consultant will have a tablet or a smartphone with them, and they will be able to walk around vehicles and show them to you and tell you everything about their specifications. Last but not least, we have e-commerce now. So you'll be able to buy or reserve the vehicle, as in book it online, with a couple of easy steps. You decide the vehicle that you want. You can either reserve the vehicle, you pay it online, or you buy the whole vehicle. It gives you all the specifications of it. And once you buy it, we will have the vehicle delivered to you at home. So as you can see, we really worked very hard on rolling out solutions that are very customer-centric, that customers are really appreciating. But again, I will say it a million times from now, is rolling out a solution is the easiest thing out there. It's not rocket science. Anybody can do it. The hard part is really looking at the data on whether that solution is making sense, if people are using it, if people are adopting it and are engaging with it. And number two is the success of any solution relies on ensuring that the whole organization is aware of those solutions and all of them are speaking the same language. So training the frontliners is extremely important in order to get everybody's buy-in into those. Let me go back to the presentation. And so here's where we put the whole roadmap, where we track on a weekly basis to see what things are live, what things are yet to come live in each one of the markets. We are at about 90% completion, which is great. And then over here, I just put slides which explain those were part of an educational toolkit that we developed And we actually did a training for all the markets, all the departments in the markets. And we took it even further to our dealership, where we trained the sales consultants on them so that everybody's fully aware of them. So all the solutions that we're talking about. And finally, in order to really see what we're doing and how is it paying off, we always check what competition is doing. And I'm glad to say that in each one of the AMI markets, we were able to create a gap between what we are offering and what our competition is offering. Even though competition is catching up, but we're still ahead of them, which is something really great. And I'm very proud of the teams in the market who have been working really day and night to push things forward. That's pretty much it from my end. Please do make sure to check out Shop at Home Solutions on all our websites. And in case of any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic, Hussein. Like I love the pacing of it, but the thing for me is that we've done some work in the automotive space and things like that as well. And I can tell you right now that you're way ahead of the market, doing tons of different innovative things that the way that we would describe it is very customer first, right? And you're actually tracking it. And I really, really loved what you said about deploying new concepts and ideas is the easy part. It's whether it's valid and the customer wants it and stuff as well. But I feel that you're just doing a really groundbreaking job of combining customer first, the right types of technology, and the customer knowing that they can access whatever they want when they want it, right? I think that's great. So
I mean, that was key for us, really. It's not about, again, I would say it's not about rolling out a solution just for the sake of rolling it out.
Right.
We felt the need out there, and the data told us that this is what customers are looking for, and we reacted. Agility was extremely important, and the cross-function working together, all of us as one team, was key to the success of those solutions.
Cool. Quick question for you. So how much has COVID impacted Nissan, both from a business point of view, so revenue generating and sales and things, and as well as from an engagement point of view? Because we're finding a lot of consumer brands have had their engagement go up a lot during COVID, but sales have either stayed the same or dropped, and some have gone up, just depends. So what's your point of view on that?
I wish I can comment on this. I'm not entitled to. The corporate comms are the ones to, but I can tell you that every business has been affected by COVID. It hasn't been an easy one. See, COVID seasonality has been really up and down, especially in the UAE, for instance, where we went into a period of a lockdown and now things have eased up a lot. I can tell you that we are almost back to normal, which is a great thing. Have we been affected? Obviously, like any other industry or company, organization. I can't go into the details of the numbers. I'm not entitled to do that. But obviously, yes, it affected every business out there. But we were very lucky about being agile and really turning things around in a very fast manner.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Hussein. Really appreciate it. So that was Hussein from Nissan. Next, we're moving on to, we've got the wonderful Alice Walsh. Alice Walsh is the co-founder of Alice Made This, which is an award-winning high-growth jewelry brand. So if that sets up for you well, Alice, I hope it does. I'll hand over to you and you can tell us about the wonder of Alice Made This.
Thank you. So I'll just share my screen in the hope that... Can you see all that?
Not yet.
Is it shared?
No, it's not sharing the screen at the moment.
Oh, it tells me it is. Hang on. No.
There we go. Yeah, we got it now. So it's showing your desktop at the moment.
Yeah, my messy desktop.
There we go. I don't think it's so bad in the desktop war type situation. I think you're okay, but otherwise I'll leave you to it now.
Right, so this morning I wanted to talk to you all about personalization and its opportunities and limitations for a smaller business. Call it a startup, a small business, a family-run business, whatever, however you want to term us. We are growing at a nice rate, but we are still deemed a small business as such. So I thought it would be good to spend the next 10 minutes looking at some limitations but also looking at 3 areas that have really seen us seize the opportunity to game change in terms of personalization. And these are, the first one is allowing our customers to be part of our process. And this has come up in most of the conversations this morning. And then 2 is listening to our customers and using their voice to drive our business. And then finally, I thought it would be good to kind of speak a bit more literally about how we've managed to achieve a 30% growth in a market where it is substantially less than that on average. And again, this year, I've got some stats for this year based on COVID complication. So just quickly following up from Martin, we are a British jewellery brand. We pair kind of the precision of engineering with the beauty of handwork. So we kind of tell stories of engineers and of artisans and use that really to talk about process, which is a passion of ours. I thought it would be good just to highlight 4 areas that I associate with a small business and how that might vary from a more established kind of corporate system. And I think actually this is relevant for everyone, but customers are really our lifeline. For us, word of mouth in particular is our most valuable tool. It helps us grow, it builds our reputation, and it creates a deeper loyalty. And it's essentially free. I mean, there's graft to get it, but it doesn't cost a huge amount in terms of cash outlay. And secondly, the merits of being a small business are that we're nimble and we can react to circumstances quite quickly. We don't have the red tape and the kind of corporate hoop jumping or the sign-offs that are required from a more established system, and that can be really beneficial, especially in the current climate. On the flip side, cash and time are our dark side. So most of our profit from product is used to go back into producing more product. And whilst we have obviously made the margins relevant so we can cover overheads and gather a pot to innovate and develop with, we still have to be really creative with our approach to all aspects of our business to make sure that we're being really efficient with our overheads. And then finally, I think, again, this probably comes with bigger businesses as well, but from our perspective, in terms of anything from web development to campaigns to marketing, because of our limited budget, we have to make decisions that have a consequence or that can bring up brick walls that might not happen if we had more cash to throw at stuff. So things that I'll come on to later to do with web bits and our marketing budgets and how we use them are quite relevant. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk a little more deeply on a few areas of personalization that I feel have really enhanced our business, areas where we've managed to go above and beyond. But firstly, I thought to answer our question correctly, I should highlight a few limitations that we face in a bit more detail too. And I think particularly from a digital perspective, these limitations are relevant. So the first, again, this has come up, first is expectation. And I think in our world today, getting personal has now become an expectation. We have a really, really, really noisy world. And if it's not personal to us, we just don't pay attention. And I don't think that's whether we recognize it as being personal to us, but I mean in terms of driven by algorithms, and these have almost like enforced what we are seeing a lot of the time. And I think this is amazing, especially from a brand perspective. This is amazing to get access to that level of interest, direct interest. But on the flip side, I really feel like we need to protect the idea of creativity, the idea of chance and intuition still being relevant. So I think protecting these elements to tell the stories and to ensure that we're introducing customers to newness that is not always driven by data is a real necessity, especially for someone like us who is a more creative, like the creativity of our brand is in our value, is one of our kind of top level values. And I think this is what will set the tone of us as a small brand when we started, and we just need to ensure that we retain that side of it, remember our values and our inspirations, and then make sure that we're pairing that with the analytics that we go to. And I think Katrina really mentioned it when she talked about the fact that people, although they are very logical and pragmatic, they still are very emotive with their decision making. The second limitation we find slightly is customer service, because customer service has always been a massive priority for us, and it's something that we will, regardless of our growth, we've got it kind of as a top level priority that we really want to continue keeping hold of. And I think the more we sell, the more vital the customer conversations and the customer service is required. And actually the more we grow in sales doesn't necessarily compensate for the more we grow in team. And we sometimes find it incredibly time consuming and incredibly distracting on our other areas of the business, however important we know that it is. And then thirdly, logistics we see as something that is a massive opportunity, but also quite a limitation to a business like ours. And I think it really is a game changer if you can get something personal, get it quickly and seamlessly to the customer, then you are totally winning. And I think when we were small enough to kind of manage it all from our studio and send orders out with a handwritten note from Ed or I, we knew the full tracking history of that product. It was really easy to have a kind of personable and heartfelt approach with your logistics. It's when you transition to fulfillment, and now we use a warehouse and have a team in there. How do we translate that passion into that kind of process, and how do we retain the level of detail that we wanted to commit to at the start as we're escalating and growing? And also it has a cost implication attached to it if we want to retain it. And then finally, the fourth limitation that I thought was worth discussing from a small business point of view was website. So our website is essentially our shop. It's our story, it's our store, and it's our kind of voice about what we do, who we are, and what we make. And as a small business, it makes total business sense for us to use a templated structure. So we actually run ours through Shopify. And this makes our setup really quick and efficient. It makes it responsive, it makes it clean. We can customize it to a certain level, but I think I've been surprised by it's the detail of this process, which is where you find the brick walls. Things like the parameters of getting only to a certain optimized speed because there's excess liquid code so that your template can be used by a plethora of individuals, or the fact that your template page might have restrictions on how you name them, which then will force you to only reach a certain level on your SEO kind of Google page search type thing. And that is that almost shows, again with the other three, that so many things are in our control as a small business, and we can be agile and nimble, but then there are some stuff that is obviously not in our control, and we just have to pick and choose our battles and opportunities. So from the negative to the positive, let's talk about the opportunities. And I wanted to talk about areas where we have really tried to own the personalization so that it becomes more than an expectation and part of who we are as a brand. And firstly, I wanted to talk about allowing our customers to be part of our process through product personalization. And this is where I wanted to also talk about the physical, not just the digital, in terms of customer experience. So our jewelry is pared back in its nature, which is a really kind of nice platform and opportunity for physical personalization. So this time last year, we introduced we invested in a piece of machinery that we could have in-house in the studio, which is essentially an in-house engraving capability in the form of a precision machining diamond drag engraver. Pretty simple in principle, but we then looked at the market and we explored our market, we explored our competition. We realized that there was really not that much on offer that presented the opportunity of physical personalization in a quick, seamless, intuitive way that also removed any barriers to conversion. So we created a quick journey and one that was complementary, so that it was a bonus rather than an addition. And we automatically, within the space of a few months, saw our sales transition by typology, and our gifting business increased in the second half of the year to make our gifting business have a 15% increase in terms of value, and that's continued this year. I think the current climate has elevated this further. We've been very fortunate in a dark time that the physical ability to personalize items has allowed people to really show compassion, to show their community values, to take action if they want to, and to get creative. So I think what I have found in terms of physical personalization is it has really given the customer the chance to tell our story as a brand and one that they are loyal to, but also to tell their story in the same space. The second thing where the opportunity has surprised me, I think, or elevated enormously, is that listening to our customers, and we've always listened to our customers, but really using their voices to drive our business. And all the conversations have talked about this actually. And I think I mentioned that customer service was a priority for us as a small business, and I totally stand by that. I do think that press has their voice with our brand, but I don't think any voice is more accommodating and acclaimed than that of our own customers. We've always been interested in customer opinion. I think I have a background in product design, and I'm a total sucker for things like ethnographic research, observation techniques, hot grouping, all of that kind of stuff. So in our business with Alice Made This, whether it's through a survey, a direct message, a messenger app, or any other app that we can look at, it's really, really easy for us to reach our customers, and it's really, really easy for them to reach us. And so in the last 12 months in particular, we've tried to take this one step further, and we've worked with our customers more directly. I think for us, we feel that they are our word of mouth. And we have recognized that we can use their word and their voice across all of our channels, obviously with the correct permissions and everything. They also give us direct feedback in real time, and that can be positive or negative, but if it's negative, at least you can do something about it very quickly. I also feel like listening to them creates a massive amount of loyalty, and it also generates more engagement. And I also feel, I think, again, this has been highlighted over the course of the last 3 months, is that customers have expectations. And I think you really need to work with them and allude to all of your values, because if you don't, they can call you out, and they can talk to you and talk to your customers as much as you can listen to them. And they can essentially make or break you, as we've seen a lot in the past few months. Anyway, over the last few months, we have also asked more of our customers, and the right-hand side is part of that process. We analysed our customer groups, and we've connected with them directly. We've asked them questions, and we've reached out to them for really long-winded stories and tales of why they purchase products, when and how. And this has given us not only some wonderful insights and some emotions, but it's allowed us to bring these emotions into our story and show how our jewelry can work for other people. It's been really, really rewarding for Ed and I and the team, but it's also been really rewarding for our customers, I think. I think another thing with this that has really surprised me along the way is I totally underestimated the value in a response directly from Ed and I as founders. And we actually see it voiced on many occasions through our customer comments, because we choose now to reach out directly, whether it's via the phone, whether it's in real life, or whether it's direct through certain apps. We actually timetable time in to talk to our customers directly as the founders. We timetable in customer response sessions, customer query response sessions, review sessions, and we use technology to push out personalized automated emails to our customers, but then that allows a response to come directly to us, and we can then follow up on their stories and kind of take that conversation a bit further. And that's been really valuable, and something that I will definitely have, regardless of how big we grow, continue as to include as part of our kind of priority pack. And then finally, I wanted to talk about, I guess, the more granular kind of like analytics side of it, in terms of how we've achieved the 30% growth in a consumer market running at 3.6%. So that was last year actually, and this year, since COVID has hit, we are looking to still grow, albeit a little less. But I feel really proud of that because we've worked really hard to achieve that, and it's during a time where actually our industry is due to shrink by 35%. And I attribute most of this to an increase in engagement. We've worked really hard to get our website right for our customer. And we've been working with Gap in the Matrix and Martin, but also Katrina and her team, to analyse and kind of implement in terms of psychology and personality. We've tweaked our copy and our imagery to psychologically understand our customer groups and to strike a chord through storytelling. We've used these assets that we've gathered to populate our emails, segmenting them to engage with our customers in the right way. And I would love to do more segmentation. This is where time and energy is our kind of dark side. We will continue to do this a bit more, but even the small amount of segmentation that we've done so far has improved our engagement and conversions, with open rates growing to 38% average, which is almost 300% above our industry norm. Click rates averaging at 11.1%, which is over 300 above our industry norm. And our email sales have increased by over 400%, which is wonderful, obviously, but also like staggering. I think in that a lot of effort was put in, but we really are reaping the benefits, and you can see a tangible shift. We have also used our merits as an honest and a local and a responsible brand in terms of storytelling, and we have so many stories to tell, but to communicate these in a personable and natural and heartfelt way through our various channels of communication has really had an impact too. So I think what has surprised me most in terms of the personalization across our customer journey is that actually our aesthetic and our product development remain extremely consistent, albeit a new story or a new piece of jewelry or a new collection. But the communication of all of this is what we have been working on and what we're fine-tuning and will continue to fine-tune, obviously. And that is the element that's driving the growth. And I think we're seeing pairing the psychology with the personalization and threading this through our entire kind of customers' end-to-end journey. We're making every touch point that they see work just harder for us to create that conversion, to create that loyalty and that engagement. And it's been really rewarding for us. So thank you. Again, a little cheeky gift for you till the end of September. Just use the code CEW20 and you can get 20% off all of our products, except face masks, I'm afraid, because margins are particularly tight on a saturated market of products for face masks. But they're pretty cool, so and affordable.
Fair enough. Absolutely phenomenal, Alice. Now, I obviously have a little bit of insider knowledge on this, but I just wanted to just pause and just explore. I mean, you've got click-through rates that a lot of brands would be happy if that was their open rates, like the 300%, the 400%, things like that. And the thing for me that really stands out as a brand is that you live by the fact that you actually care. You care about your customers, you care about the design. Lots of those stories, like what you're showing, is worth saying to people that people hunt day and night to try and get customer stories. And those big, long stories you're getting is with zero incentive. You're not offering people discounts. You're just trying to find out what you solve for them, what problem you solved, which goes back to our earlier thing as well. What would you say the future looks like for you? Like what things are you looking to explore to keep this kind of record setting going? Like from a customer point of view, what comes to mind?
God, well, I actually feel like because I feel really positive of the fact that we can make decisions and implement stuff very quickly, but I feel the negative side is that we just don't have enough hands to implement it that as quickly as I would like. So I think the future for us is to really just fine-tune our customer profiles, because that gives us the ability to then reach out to each individual in a way that really strikes a chord with them. I feel very positive that people really want more meaningful things in life. I think they almost want, I think also COVID has really made them think they want to strip back a lot of the noise and just focus on the things they really care about. So it's almost like they want their shopping experiences or their customer experiences to match their personal values, and just kind of integrate into their lifestyle. So I hope that we can continue to carve out a really lovely experience for the customers that kind of strike a chord with us.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, the meaning matters almost as much as the product, right? That's really what we're talking about. Is the customer understands that they can obtain their reward, their need, their emotion from that.
Totally.
The product is the bonus thing that they speak to people about, and they say, "Where did you get that lovely bracelet?" Like what my wife says, because I bought one from you, and that had the personalization on it as well. And I thought your stats again, like the 15% on gifting, is an amazing example about just the little touches about just being personal to people and allowing them to customize things makes a big difference, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you very much, Alice. And our drum roll, our final person presenting today is Alan. Alan, you're a solutions architect. I'm upgrading your name. I like that as a title, solutions architect.
I like that better as well, thank you.
So your role at Aspect is you're supporting account execs, channel partners, talking about the capabilities, solutions, and just doing some problem solving for clients and stuff, right? So I'll hand it over to you and you can just explore what those problems are and what your capabilities are. It'd be a great way to end today.
Okay, lovely. Thanks very much, Martin. So if I just share my screen. Okay, so just to introduce who Aspect are, if anyone hasn't come across Aspect before, we're a contact center solution provider, so both cloud and on-premises contact center solutions. So we provide not only the interaction piece, so the ability for customers to call in and be called via any means, by voice, chat, SMS, social media channels, etc. But we also provide the capability for workforce management capabilities as well. So planning your workforce, scheduling your workforce, etc. And building into the contact center piece, one of the capabilities we provide is around self-service. So how your customers can serve themselves without having to interact with an expensive agent resource. So looking at some stats around omni-channel, so the ability for a customer to contact you by a channel other than voice. This is a survey that we carried out called the Aspect Customer Experience Index that we carried out internally around about 12 months ago. So around 2/3 of customers prefer a channel other than voice to make contact with an organization. Over 90% believe that they should be able to pick up where they last left off when contacting customer service. So they don't want to have to constantly repeat why they call in. I get it when I call a service provider and I have to explain the same problem over and over again before I actually get to the point where I can continue. And also almost half of customers prefer a channel experience that personalizes the experience to them. They don't want a one size fits all. They want an organization to know who they are, and they want to be able to personalize that journey through the contact center. And these omni-channel experiences matter. So around 90% of customers with the strongest omni-channel strategy retain on average around 90% of their customers. Those with the weak ones only manage to retain 1/3 of their customers. And as we all know, it costs far more to gain a new customer than it does to retain an existing one. So in order to achieve this, you need to be where your customers are in terms of what they want. So you need to be flexible in terms of how your customers can contact you by the most appropriate channel. For instance, if I'm at home, I might be quite happy to get on the phone and speak to someone in the contact center. If I'm on a train, on my way to a customer meeting, I don't really want to be speaking. I would probably prefer to make contact via SMS or a chat or some other text-based channel. But regardless of how you make that contact, you should have a consistent customer experience for your brand. So regardless of how you make contact, you would expect to have the same experience through those different processes, and it should be seamless as well. So when you move between those different channels and you move to speak to agents in the contact center on those different channels, you would want a seamless experience as you transition between them. So these are just some of the the key concepts around around self-service. So looking at omnichannel, as I mentioned earlier, customers want you to don't want to have to repeat themselves. So we have this concept of called context cookies, very similar to in a cookies within an internet browser. So if, for example, I call in yesterday regarding a query about a bill, if I follow up with a chat interaction today, I would expect the organisation to know that I actually called in yesterday. Chances are I'm contacting you about the same thing. So at the very least, I would expect to be asked, are you calling about your inquiry from yesterday? You should also be able to facilitate moving across those different channels to live agents as well, and providing the transaction information. So again, when you transition into speaking to an agent, you expect that agent, or our customers expect those agents to be able to review the self-service interaction the customer's been through before, so they don't have to repeat themselves. So you can provide continuity. So from a customer experience, you can say, yep, you tried to pay a bill earlier, there was a problem with your card, are you calling in to complete the payment? Yes, I am. And your average handle time for that interaction is very much shortened. So in order to provide those connected experiences, there are three levels effectively. There's the where, so you can see, in this case, I can see that you for example called us a few minutes ago trying to pay a bill. Are you calling back to pick up where you left off? That's great. Yes, it is. I can go back straight into the process and I can continue my interaction. So when I'm transitioning from that self-service experience to a live experience, I'd expect the context to be transferred through, and I'd also expect to be transferred through to an agent that can help me first time. There's nothing more frustrating than calling into a contact center and being bounced around various different departments before I actually get to speak to the person I need to. So one of the capabilities we can provide is called data-directed routing. So we can look up, based upon an account number or a phone number that somebody's called in on, we can look up and see who that customer is and make a decision which is the best agent to route that contact through to. And it could well be the previous agent they spoke to. If you want to retain that one-to-one relationship between the customer and the agent, then you can transfer through to the agent that they last spoke to, assuming they're available, of course. Also, customers are far more likely to use self-service capability if they can have a much more natural language understanding. So rather than having simple phrases, yes, no, customer service, etc., they were looking for natural language understanding. So you can say things in a number of ways. What's my balance? Can you tell me what my balance is? How much money is left in my account, for example? So by using those natural language understanding methods, you can make it a much more conversational interaction with your customers. Also, the ability to build these interactions out across different channels easily, quickly and easily, again, providing the same or very similar experience regardless of the channel. So you can build this capability against one channel for voice, for example. Once you're happy with that and you've got good uptake on it from your customers, you may then say, right, I want to now transition this to a chat. You would want to have a very similar experience, very similar questions, etc. So the customer feels, yes, this is joined up. I'm not speaking to a completely different part of the organisation. This is this is the same experience that I get. And also, customers, a lot of our customers want to know how they can personalise that interaction. So based upon the customer segment, who they are they a new customer? Are they a returning customer? Are they part of a loyalty program? You will want to adapt your self-service strategy to best meet the needs of those particular customers, and also adapt to things like language. The way that people speak, not only the language, whether it's English, French, German, etc., but the type of languages they use. Also, the speed at which they speak as well. Some people speak very quickly. They look for numeric patterns as well. So again, just adapting and making sure that you give the customer the experience they expect. So here we've got some examples here. When I call in and I give a date, I could say October 2020, 1020, or I could read it out in digits. You would expect the system to be able to understand that regardless of how you speak it. And also adapting to customer experience as well. When I call in and speak to an organisation, I don't need to hear all 15 options that I might want to choose from and have to wait till the very last one before I can say it. I want to be able to say bill inquiry, customer service, I need to speak to someone in customer service, etc. So again, using that the ability to find out who your customer is, find out if they are a regular user of your service, you can then use the correct language and routing capability that's applicable to them. Moving on from that basic kind of IVR or interactive voice response capability, we've got a lot of customers now who are looking to take that to the next level in terms of self-service interaction. So a lot of customers have frustrations with those traditional IVRs that companies offer. They just like having to, as I say, having to listen to irrelevant options over and over again. A lot of customers feel that the traditional IVR is designed to prevent them from reaching a live agent. And in a lot of cases, that is true. A lot of customers that we speak to are looking for ways to divert calls away from agents that can be handled by self-service. An agent is an expensive resource to ask for somebody, for example, where's my order? You don't need an agent to be able to give you that information. You can use self-service to do that. But you don't want to give the impression to your customers that you're avoiding the ability for them to speak to somebody. If they do need to speak to somebody, absolutely you should give them that capability to do that. But if it can be self-served, then yes, again, you should be doing that. Customers have, time is important to them. They don't want to be hanging on in queue waiting for agents to become available. They just want an answer to their question and then get on with their day. So what customers tend to look for within these kind of modern IVR capabilities is easy interaction, good speech recognition. Again, very frustrating to have to constantly repeat your question with a speech recognition engine. So it needs to be tuned properly to make sure that it recognizes speech, even in a noisy environment. If somebody's speaking on a mobile, walking down a high street, then that tool needs to still be able to filter out that background noise and recognize the speech. You should be able to give a full omni-channel experience with continuity. So again, similar principle to the previous IVR function. You should give continuity across these different IVR options. And also be able to offer new forms of IVR as well. Lots of people have Amazon Echo, Google Home, and other personal assistants, which are starting to become more prevalent in people's homes. They expect to be able to use those tools as well now to interact with organisations that they contact. It's also important to be able to notify and remind your customers proactively. So, for example, if a payment is due, and you're very slightly late, maybe you're a couple of days late with your payment, a gentle reminder will be sufficient for most people to be able to say, oh yeah, actually I should have paid that a couple of days ago. They can go in on your modern IVR application and make that payment without having to speak to somebody. Also, providing this in a mobile environment as well. So as well as being able to do this on a desktop, laptop, the vast majority of people will now use a mobile device for interacting. And so these modern IVR capabilities should easily transition across to those mobile devices as well. Also, a lot of customers are looking for the ability to do in-queue self-service as well. So when they're making a contact into the organisation, if you can predict why that customer is calling in, you think actually, yep, they're overdue, they're due to pay a bill. Actually, let's see if we can self-serve. You can ask that question, are you calling in to pay a bill? If they say yes, you can then take them through a payment process, again, without having to speak to an agent. And also provide callback capabilities as well. So if you call in and you've got very excessive queue delays, for example, it's a Monday morning and you've got lots of customers calling in that were unable to contact you over the weekend, then have the ability to offer callback. So rather than sitting in a queue for 10 minutes waiting to be answered, if you can specify that you can be called back later in the day, when your queue levels have dropped as an organization, you can then start using your agents to fulfill those outbound calls and meeting those customer requirements. And all this, if it's done right, improves the customer experience. Again, if you're not giving the customer the impression that you don't want to speak to them, you want to help themselves, then that you make it easy to use, and that also contains your own costs as well. It's far cheaper to self-serve than to use an agent. And also use these tools to engage with your customers. Don't just use it to notify them of something. Use it as an opportunity to engage with them, maybe to buy additional products from you or use additional services that you provide. These modern IVR capabilities allow you to do that across multiple channels. So again, moving into the social environment, using WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Viber, etc. All of those social channels can be used for these kind of engagement functions. So looking a little bit deeper into the web apps, again, you should, if you do this properly, you should give this this mobile experience a very similar experience to a chatbot, and deliver those answers that need rich media capabilities using that functionality. So if you need a graphical representation to show something, for example, with Hussein's example earlier, with booking doing a car, requesting a car specification, if you can provide those graphics and information in a rich media format, someone's far more likely to go through it than they are if they can just see text on a screen. And also use these what we call micro apps for transactional purposes as well. So in a collections environment for making payments, maybe setting up doctor or dentist appointments with options again to go a little bit further to reschedule, changing phone plans, etc. These are great applications for these mobile web experiences. And also they're secure as well. Nothing's installed on a customer's device. It's only there purely for the duration of the interaction. As soon as it finishes, all information is deleted from that user's phone, so there are no security issues with using these types of applications. And they're also platform agnostic as well. You're not restricted to a particular device or a particular type of device from a manufacturer or a particular operating system. They will work across any device that a customer chooses to contact you on. So in this case here, empowering your customers, making payments. So one of the things we saw with the onset of COVID was a lot of our customers suddenly had to go to a work from home scenario. Some customers are prepared for this. They'd got very detailed work from home protocols in place, so that in the event of a disaster, if they couldn't use their building, for example, then they had all the capabilities in place to put their agents at home and they could continue working pretty much as normal. But some customers didn't, particularly organizations that perhaps don't take so many payments through websites. They rely on agents to take payments. If you're in a contact center, it's typically, or it should be, a PCI compliant clean desk environment. You've not got the ability to write down people's credit card numbers. You don't have mobile devices allowed in the contact center. If all your agents are at home, that control has effectively been lost. You can't actually see what your agents are doing, but you still need to take payments. That's your business. If you're not taking payments, you're not making money, you're not going to last very long. So these are ideal ways or an ideal scenario that we saw for these kind of modern IVR applications with making payments. So you can still call into the contact center and the agent can then transfer you through to one of these secure applications to make this payment. And again, these can be deployed typically within days, sometimes within hours. The tools are very easy to use in terms of building these applications to make these payments. Looking back at self-service, so if you're in queue to speak to an agent, and again the system has recognised actually this person called in yesterday, tried to make a payment and was unable to do so, perhaps that's what they're trying to do today. So you can ask them the question, are you trying to make a payment? while you're in queue. If you are, then let's self-serve you. Why wait for an agent to do it? If you can do it in a self-service environment, then absolutely you should do that. And then inquire, has your question been resolved? If it has, that customer can drop the call and get on with their day. They may need to speak to an agent potentially. And if they are, then they can be transferred through, or they can be called back at a later time. Looking at visual IVR, so this is the ability for a customer to have an interaction on their desktop, to have an IVR or a process on their device, but also be talked through it. So if it's a fairly complex interaction that you're trying to take place, for example, booking a car test drive, there's lots of different information you're going to need, your name, your address, the type of model that you're interested in, when you would like the test drive to take place. From an organisation, you're also going to need to know, have you got that vehicle available for that date? If you haven't, are there alternatives? If you can guide that person through that interaction, it's going to give them a much better experience, and they're likely to come out of it a much happier customer. So from that session, again, it is very difficult to kind of go through all the capabilities around customer self-service. I could talk about this for the rest of the day. It was really just to give you a flavour for what we see as a contact centre provider, what our customers are looking for, and more importantly, what their customers are looking for, because their businesses are driven by what their customers require. So hopefully from this, you've maybe got some idea of how customers can self-serve, some of the tools that are available, how they can communicate seamlessly and save time and get a better experience, and how that customer contact can be preserved over different channels. There's a lot of talk of this is a millennial thing, and people, millennials want to be able to self-serve and use these devices. I'm not a millennial by any stretch of the imagination, but I want to be able to use these capabilities, and so do many other people that I know. So that was all from me. Happy to field any questions if necessary, or you can follow up with my email address, which is on the screen there.
Brilliant, Alan. First of all, that was really good. You took us through a lot of complex difference-making stuff in a really simple way, which was really cool. The core question that's come up with a couple of different variables is like, what do you think surprises people, not just about your capabilities, but the problems that they're creating by not having these kind of capabilities? Because what you're really talking about is like the old school structural IVR versus natural language AI, the ability to adapt to customers, the ability to react with them, where you're not just thinking about it based on they're on the phone, so they must be on the phone, like as you said, like you could be texting them, switching them to self-service. Like with all of that, what would you say surprises people the most, or indeed what frustrates you the most from your point of view about what people do and don't understand?
I think it's really a fear of the unknown. A lot of customers think that this is a bit new. People won't be interested in taking it up. But once they speak to a reference customer, so we've got reference customers who use this kind of capability regularly, and once they speak to them and say, actually, our churn rate dropped by 20%. As a mobile provider, for example, it's quite easy to move between mobile providers if you don't provide good customer service. If you can overcome that problem, and you can give your customers good service, either through them helping themselves or through contacting you via different channels, you're far more likely to retain those customers.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Alan. So for today, thanks very much for Aspect in general for sponsoring this session. Hopefully everybody that's seen it has picked up a bunch of different tips, everything from psychology to personalization, to understand your customers' emotions, needs, to being able to react based on the technology that your customers are needing and the problem that they need solved. So a whole raft of different things there. The recordings for this will be, along with the decks, will be issued later this week. But final point for me was great thanks to Alan, Alice, Sum, Hussein, and Katerina for the contributions today. A really fantastic session. So thanks, everybody.